Imagine finding that the person you trusted most is ready to leave you at the most vulnerable moment of your life. What would you do? In this video, I will tell the exciting story of overcoming and strength that will inspire you to never give up, even when everything seems lost. Before you start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like not to lose any powerful history like this. Let's go together on this transformation journey. Enjoy this beautiful story. My name is Natalia. I always kept the certainty that my trajectory was organized as those reports on wins that reads in magazines. Leonardo. And I looked like the pair perfect in everyone's eyes. He, a cultured and elegant lawyer, always much praised at meetings and dinner social. Me, the person who raised a company from zero, gaining respect in an environment still mostly male. But no one knew the secret, not even him, that the monetary force of this relationship came entirely of me. I kept reserved how much it profited, and especially the reason, perhaps for pride or fear of changing the dynamics between us. When Leonardo proposed me marriage, I gave myself license to believe that a plot lived of dream. The way he knelt down, the brightness in the eyes, the ring sparkling under the sun, all commonplaces were gifts. I didn't want to see the failures that formed, and when anyway I realized it was too late. First, since I felt that pain so deep, I assumed to be just exhaustion. The company expanded at a rapid pace, and the days in the office merged into the nights, while he was working without rest. At first, they were tolerable, habitual tiredness, but soon became something in addition. It was as if my body, hitherto ally, had turned against me, and as much as I tried to minimize the problem, there was a moment when I couldn't even raise. Leonardo, of course, demonstrated concern. He stared at me with that combination of pity and sense of duty, saying that I needed rest, that he would solve all. At the time, the affection that united us still looked strong. Only what I couldn't to imagine was that my body weakness I was awakening something dark in him. My health was declining, and as my trips to emergency became constant, his diminished. I forced myself to believe that this was due to work, that I was supporting our lives while I took care of me. But deep down, something told me which was just an illusion. There was an episode especially that I will never forget. I was hospitalized. The aseptic odor of the corridors mixed with the monotonous sound of equipment around me. Leonardo entered the room, and for the first time, I felt a removal tangible between both of us. He remained beside from the bed, but did not hold my hand, nor he looked like before. When he spoke, his voice seemed empty, almost lifeless. "You'll be fine," he said. But the words came out without feeling. I didn't answer. Something inside me began to fade, but it was not the organism. It was the belief that our love would be enough to face that disease. That night, I spent hours without falling asleep, contemplating the shadows on the wall. Insomnia mingled with emotional pain, something far beyond the physical. Lying on that bed, I started to question everything that had built. I would be deceiving me all this time? He would be true what I felt for him or I just clung to the idea of being the couple exemplary. Worse, did he love me? Or just sought the ostentation that did life beside my side? Leonardo did not appear in consultations, and sometimes not even a connection was worthy to make. It seemed to me that for him, the woman who had sworn to take care in health and disease was no longer present. I made myself a weight. I don't need to explain how much it consumed me. The humiliation of recognize that while I headed, my marriage it crumbly too. Only I wasn't prepared for what would come later. The coldness his moments seemed to me incompetence to deal with someone sick. Never crossed my head that behind of that indifference, there was something even more deep, ready to rock the image that I had him, and from us. Reviewing now, I notice how the evidence was clear. Brief comments, avoided looks, the loss of tune. But I was so immersed in my own pain, I preferred not to see. I imagined that if I reached, everything would return to the axis. I just had no awareness that the normal of before is already he had paralyzed for a long time. And in that room of hospital, while the world was driving outside, I was about to lose everything. Which I ignored it is that sometimes the loss is precisely the starting point for liberation. When Leonardo entered my room in that late, his countenance was even more loaded than usual. There was no kiss from compliance with the forehead, as happened in the first days, nor a smile. Instead, he pulled a chair, sitting heavily, as if it carried the planet over itself. For one instant, I thought he carried bad news about my health, or that the work was consuming. The truth, however, was crude. "Natalia," he started without facing me, the look stuck to the hands that were ins about the knees. "We need to talk." Those 3 words, so simple and, to at the same time, so ominous, they stiffened me. My heart shot and immediately understood that what would come would be hard to endure. Of course, I had, trying to look calm. But there was something in his posture, in the glacial voice, that made me hold my breath. He wasn't distressed or shaken. He was irreducible. I want divorce. The 4 syllables crossed the room as a dagger. That environment that was once routine, the unmistakable odor of antiseptic, the noise of the machinery, suddenly small and claustrophobic. I remained silent for a moment, absorbing the shock. 1 divorce? At that moment, I looked at him, looking for some trace of regret, but I found only a coldness that I had never witnessed throughout our conviviality. "Do you really be it?" I asked, the almost inaudible voice. I wanted it seems firm, but I came out fragile, hit. He nodded, still without facing me. "No, I can do more. I can't carry on, Natalia. I tried, but I'm not the kind that holds this situation." He made a vacant gesture as if I, lying there, represented all negative he didn't want to face. My blood boiled. "Can't deal with that? I'm fighting for my life, Leonardo. It's not something I chose. I fired, making a huge effort to keep me calm, although, from the storm that torn me inside." He raised his face, and I could see that the lack of empathy it hurt more than any declared antipathy. "I met someone," confessed, the speech sounding as indifferent as if you were discussing the weather forecast. "This person understands my needs. She's not weakened." I got breath in suspended. The word weakened echoed like a fuse in my head. I had stopped being a partner, making me just a hindrance, a load. "Are you cheating on me?" Already knowing the answer, but still needing that he verbalize her so that I could face the truth. "Yes," he confirmed without hesitation, as if I had already rehearsed this speech many times. "And we intend to marry." The void that formed next was deafening. There was nothing to say. The man that I loved, or thought I knew, it was replacing me just when I needed support. I tried to see some shadow in it of regret, any sign of compassion, but I only saw someone's face which I had already decided and would not go back. "So that's it?" I asked. For myself, maybe more than for him. "You will abandon now in this state?" He shrugged, categorical. "It does not give to proceed. I don't want a wife useless." The words hit me as stuck. Their hardness left me without air. I felt at the same time anger and agony gaining strength inside, but also something different, something I wasn't ready to identify. The feeling that after that blow, I would discover a new way. "Do you want what then?" I asked, the tone increasingly loaded with anger. "The home, the car? We'll take everything we invest together?" He finally changed his posture, as if dealing with the practical part was much more comfortable than dealing with feelings. "I want the house and the car. I need to follow front, and I don't want you to take it to the court." I almost let out a disdain laugh. It is clear that he wanted the housing, the car, everything that represented prestige and opulence. He was entitled to simply take everything and start over, as if I were a page that turns around. What he didn't suspect, and possibly never considered, it was that standard of life he was so fond of, it was entirely funded by me, Leonardo. I even earned well, but without my contribution, the account would not close. For a moment, I wanted to scream this reality in his face, to rub the truth about your financial dependence. But something me held. It was not time to expose my letters. Instead of this, I decided to agree with apparent docility. "Okay," I said, keeping the voice serene. "Keep the house and the car." The expression of relief that emerged on his face, it was immediate. He did not doubt me, did not question why would I give so easy. Maybe it was convinced that I was too fragile, unable to resist emotionally or physically. "Thank you, Natalia. I know you understands. It's the best for us." He raised and touched my shoulder, almost paternalistic. "I hope you find someone who takes care of you the way you need it." I watched him cross the bedroom door, feeling the vacuum he left. He believed he had shattered my world, which would leave me starred as he ran after his new life. But, in that silence, something began to be born inside me. The stab it could have destroyed me, but it was the fuse for a force I didn't even imagine possessing. Leonardo had no idea, but he had committed the worst possible mistake. And when finally realized, it would be too late. As soon as Leonardo left that room of hospital, I kept my eyes fixed and the door closed for moments that they seemed endless. The silence to my surrounding remained absolute, but my head, it didn't silent. He had really left me, not just broken, but discarded me, as if I were a defective component. I felt angry, bitterness, and impotence. The fact of being weakened in that bed intensified my feeling of fragility. Even so, some internal process began to move. What was once weakness in increasing lucidity I realized that I had underestimated myself my own value for years. It was not Leonardo who supported the appearances of our couple life. It was me. According to the days passed and my body answered to treatment, my trust evolved at the same rhythm. I promised myself that, as soon as it was discharged, it would show the Leonardo who actually commanded the situation. The moment I stepped out of the hospital, the world has gained a new shade. The fresh air on the face, the aroma of life flowing again my lungs. Everything reinforced my determination. I didn't just want to overcome a sickness, but there is a strengthened than I never imagined. There was no place for the weakness he had known. I didn't come back for our home, because it now belongs Leonardo. He was there with his lover, dreaming that your new reality went from wind in stern, while I left for another path. After leaving the hospital, I rented a simple, more central apartment. It was neither big nor exquisite, but welcomed my needs at that moment. One species of stronghold where I could breathe, redo, and forget about the latest past. That was only temporary. I needed structure my plans and act on right time. In the early months, I resumed my work gradually. I focused in recovery and enjoyed the silence as a way of growing again. It was not time to confront Leonardo or demand nothing. I was sure he, over the days, he would knock himself down. He lived a fantasy that he couldn't support for a long time, and while I prospered in silence, all around he started to crumble. Through common acquaintances, I received small updates that confirmed my priestry. Leonardo. He could keep the appearances. The lover, initially fascinated with the promise of status next to him, gradually realized that the supposed abundance did not pass of staging. The salary of lawyer Leonardo didn't even cover half of spending that they accumulated to maintain the house and the car. The accounts started to arrive, the phone calls of institutions also. The snowball of debts surrounded him. Leonardo never knew how to deal under pressure. He had always assumed that they would simply get it right on their own. But now, reality has come hard. As soon as the lover noticed the fraud, left without hesitation, taking the vows empty he had promised. The relationship of them, based on convenience and egocentrism, could not stand the charges real. He was lonely in the middle of the chaos that he himself created. Then, he came to me. The call came on a common afternoon, while I reviewed documents in the office. Seeing the name Leonardo on the display, I thought in ignoring, but the part of me waiting this moment answered calmly. "Natalia," he said with a trembling voice, "I need to talk to you." I kept the coldness. "What do you want?" He heard, as if he already knew he didn't had no more domain over me. "I made a lot of mistakes. You were right. The house, the car, I will lose everything. I am unable to pay the bills. Please, I need you now." Could hear the desperation impregnated in the tone of him, and that aroused in me a bittersweet feeling, almost a sense of retribution. After everything he had done it, now he begged me. "And what do you think should I do?" I asked, without the slightest statement of penalty. He swallowed hard. "Natalia, please, I did everything wrong. The house, the car, they are leaving. I ask for your help, you know what to do. I have no way out." I let the silence occupy the space for several seconds, enough for him feel the weight of the situation. So I said with an almost cruel tranquility, "You know that both the house and the car, they are in my name, don't you know? And now, I want everything back." I heard the sigh of those who no longer had alternative. Leonardo understood that he was under my yoke, without ability to resolve the impasse alone. When I closed the call, I felt a relief that had not emerged for a long time. I had all, not just the possessions, but inner security. Leonardo, he thought he could knock me down. At the end, he himself fell. Now, with everything registered, again in my name, I finally felt free to turn the page. The circle closed and I was ready to move on, with more impetus, more insight, and above all, free. After this last contact, something in I was quiet. It seemed that after months of conflicts and waiting, I had found a kind of balance that sought for a long time. Leonardo and his failures were just a temporary obstacle. And now I saw it without pain, only with clarity. I had always been the spine dorsal of that story, never he. On the day Leonardo signed the rolls transferring back home and the car for my name, I returned to that residence where we have already shared so many moments. I entered the empty room, scenarios once full of conversations, laughs, and also fights. The furniture, which once seemed to me triumphs of a structured life, now they were just ordinary pieces. Home. It was cold, and my steps resonated by the empty rooms. I didn't feel sorry, no longing, just the certainty that that place no longer belonged to me. I made the decision to sell the property. The amount obtained was useful, but the more important was what this symbolized. I was giving up a past that there was no use anymore. With the car, I did the same. I didn't need memories to call me Leonardo. Nothing that me retreat in that phase closed. I applied the money to buy a new modern apartment, located near to my workplace. Visualize this as the beginning of a next chapter. The new home was much smaller, but cozy. Every detail, from the colors of the walls to design of the furniture, was chosen by me, reflecting the woman I became, determined, independent, and above all, free of strings. While I resumed my growth, I knew by the context that Leonardo also dealt with the consequences of your acts. Undoing your pride injured, he had to face the bankruptcy of the image it cultivated. His new companion had left as soon as you noticed the financial wreck. He continued to exercise law, but entangled in charges and pending, trying desperately resume something of the old prestige. It was almost ironic, but the whole empire of appearances that he thought of controlling bankruptcy lose the real pillar, me. However, this part no longer concerned me. My focus was the future and the person in which I was converting, reassuming my functions in the company with breath renewed, and each successful initiative I remembered that I was able to, much more than suppose. The environment corporate was realizing my transformation. They felt something in the air. Maybe the lightness of those who didn't need more prove anything to anyone. Only then I discovered what it meant to be complete, by my own strength. In the following months, I rediscovered the pleasure to be myself in everyday situations, wake up without haste, read books that I always wished, passing moments silent in my new home, observe the urban movement while I had a coffee. I realized that each day, I had a chance to continue rewriting my trajectory, without the shadows that haunted me before. Naturally, I met new people, and some effective connections have emerged. Unlike Leonardo, these new men valued my individuality, and they didn't see me as a mere trophy. However, now I knew my happiness did not depend on no one but me. The time when I believed I need a figure by my side to complete me, there was received behind. A year later, I was on the balcony of my apartment, contemplating the lights of the metropolis lighting at dusk, reflecting on everything that had happened. Leonardo, the betrayal, my period in the hospital, and the posterior back over that seemed impossible. It was curious to think how everything turned, and, in the end, he became only a secondary quote in a plot that, in essence, always, it was about me, my bravery, my reconstruction, and go beyond. I understood, in the most painful way, that we control what others choose to do. Some people will disappoint, betray, and leave exactly when you more needs them. But that does not define who we are. What really matters. This is what you do later, how you choose, raise, and redirect your own story. And at that time, I understood that the power has always been in my hands. And now finally, I chose to use it to live in fullness. I am very happy that you have remained, even the outcome of this narrative. Like you, do you see this inspiring story? Share your opinion in the comments, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to avoid losing no special report. See you soon.